The nation's capital has filed an emergency legal challenge to the Trump administration's federal takeover of its police department. Today, a federal judge heard initial arguments just hours after Attorney General Pam Bondi replaced the city's police chief with an emergency commissioner. What does that mean? Joining me now is CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson, who is also a Loyola Law School professor. Jessica, always a great pleasure to see you. What exactly is the district arguing in this new legal challenge?
So they're arguing a bunch of things. One, that the takeover, the so-called takeover of the police department itself is improper, that it improperly invades DC's power as a somewhat separate sovereign. And second, and I think this will be left for next week, they're arguing that the federal government cannot force the DC, the Metropolitan Police Department, to enforce immigration law. The arguments today were largely, while very consequential, were largely procedural in the sense of what the judge ultimately told the parties is that they needed to change the president's emergency order so that the police department was essentially a designee of the DEA. But I think they're leaving a little bit of vagueness as to whether or not the Trump administration can specifically say, we're taking over the DC Police Department. The last thing I would note is just a reminder for everybody that DC is not similarly situated to other states because DC is largely under the control of the federal government. So the federal government can do a lot more than they could, for instance. I'm speaking to you from California, where we just had a trial about similar issues.
Given that it is rather a set of unusual circumstances for the district itself, could the outcome of this case have any impact if the administration does attempt to take control of other local police departments?
It's such an important question. I think it emphasizes what we were talking about before, which is the court in this case is emphasizing a federal statute called the Home Rule Act. And it's the same, it's a statute that kind of gave to DC, but also took away. It gave DC in some ways a separate government, but it also reminded DC that they are not like another state and that they are under the control of the federal government in many ways. And so there's one section of this federal statute we've been talking about, Section 740, and it, in my view, is a broad grant of authority to the president that would allow the president to, for lack of a better term, take over control of the Metropolitan Police Department to help enforce federal laws. Now, your question about what would this mean for other states, we don't have the Home Rule Act for other states. So the reasoning could be somewhat persuasive. Other courts might look, but it wouldn't be anything like binding authority. We're not looking at the same statutes that the president would use for other states.
All right, Jessica Levinson, thank you very much.